In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is honoring decades of memory, service, and sacrifice. Through its Steel Across America tour, the foundation brings an original World Trade Center steel beam to communities across the country as a symbol of sacrifice. To honor the 343 FDNY heroes lost on 9/11, Tunnel to Towers is delivering 343 mortgage-free homes and continuing efforts to end veteran homelessness. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation at T2T.org.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
And welcome, everybody. This is the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. We survived another brutal Saturday here in the New York area. My God, winter needs to end already. Boy, it was cold, but we're going to get warmer again this week. And I think finally we are in the clear as far as the cold is concerned. Meanwhile, you got to hear this because it really is remarkable that Stephen A. Smith is running. Well, all right, he hasn't announced it, but he'll do it. He's smart, Stephen A. He understands that if he runs for president, that gets a lot of attention, a lot of interviews, which he has no problem scoring already, and a lot of attention. Now, can he win? In the current Democratic Party, no. But Stephen A. is a Republican. I mean, let's face it. Stephen A., if you're listening, yeah, you are. Everything you say conforms more with the red team than the blue team. Here is Stephen A. on Bill Maher's show on Friday night talking about Trump's moves in Iran. And again, if you could tell the difference between Stephen A. Smith and, let's say, Marco Rubio, be my guest. Cut number 8, go.
You got a lot of damn nerves to be in the face of American people saying for numerous administrations, Iran is a problem. They have to be dealt with. Iran's a problem. They have to be dealt with. And then this man deals with them, and then all of a sudden you're complaining about him now. Right. It doesn't really make sense. There's a lack of consistency.
Would you take ASAP money?
Whoa. That is a Hollywood audience, Los Angeles. Bill Maher's show on HBO. A liberal audience, I'm not saying like The View, but pretty darn close. And that was an applause line? Really? Tells you that this Iran war, when you hear that it's very unpopular with the American people, I don't buy it. Not even one bit. I get that gas prices are now at a place where they were under Biden. But no one was really crying about gas prices under Biden, were they? The world wasn't on fire. So, as Trump has said, you take a little pain now, and then maybe as a result of fixing something that has been broken for 47 years, as far as Iran holding the Strait of Hormuz hostage, threatening the West with the possibility of nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, ICBMs, terror proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, all right, end this already. And for Trump, short term, maybe not the best strategy, but Trump is not thinking short term here. He's thinking long term. I have an opportunity to change something that no Republican or Democratic president has done. Whether we're talking about going all the way back to, Reagan, Clinton, Bush, Obama, obviously Biden, pallets of cash. Yeah. Time to fix this for good. And then 10 or 20 years down the line, or even the next president, let's say a Democrat somehow wins in 2028, that person will be the beneficiary the same way Bill Clinton was in 1993 when he took office. When Reagan, and by extension, George H.W. Bush, eviscerated the Soviets, that regime, that's probably even a soft word for it, that entire entity fell along with all those Eastern European satellite countries that basically were extensions of the Soviet Union. And then we had peace. So you didn't have to spend all this money anymore on fighting the Soviets, or at least deterring the Soviets. And then we had, obviously, an internet bubble, and Bill Clinton's presidency, very successful because of what he inherited for the most part. It's not like Clinton did anything revolutionary. He compromised with the other side, obviously, Newt Gingrich, the era of big government is over, a balanced budget amendment, which is a foreign concept now, welfare reform, all these things. And I think any Democrat that happens to inherit what Trump is going to leave that particular administration, if they win, and I don't think they will. I mean, look at the bench. Look at what we're dealing with here. You don't think J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio can defeat Kamala Harris, who's leading in the polls right now for the Democratic nomination? Or Gavin Newsom? Gavin Newsom, who he's trying so damn hard. This poor guy so wants to be president and so will say anything to be president that he'll actually say, yeah, I got 960 on my SATs. I'm dumb, just like you. Says it to a predominantly black audience. Smart move. Yeah, that'll work. And just overall, oh boy, I got dyslexia. I'm not a very smart guy. I can't even read. I've never read a speech. Do you want that guy as president? Really? Oh, by the way, that little tidbit about his record in California. Highest homeless rate, highest poverty rate, highest unemployment rate. Can't put out wildfires when they exist because there's no water in the reservoirs. This is going to be your leading guy to defeat the Republican? Well, the only chance that he has is if America fails during the Trump presidency, which means the Iran war must fail, gas prices must stay high, and we must have an economy that gives an opening to any Democrat to say, oh, I'm running on affordability, like Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, like Abby Spanberger in Virginia, as if they know how to solve that problem, considering that they supported, as in votes, the Inflation Reduction Act under Joe Biden. And the reason why we're at this whole unaffordability crisis in the first place is because of the Auto Pen administration. But yeah, let's give them power again and see what they do. You think they have solutions? Of course they don't. So Trump needs to see this through in Iran. As far as the Strait of Hormuz, which now Trump is floating, maybe we just call it the Strait of Trump, the Strait of America. I say call it the Freedom Strait. I say take the really, really high road and say, you know what? No matter what country you are, if you need something to go through this strait, and remember, without the Strait of Hormuz, literally you have countries in Asia that would have to go around the Horn of Africa in order to get to Europe, in order to get to America, and that slows things tremendously. That means more cost. That means it's passed on to the consumer. Winning and owning the Strait of Hormuz is everything in this war right now. And if Trump and his team can accomplish that, you're going to see gas prices come down in a hurry. The economy is going to take off thanks to the big, beautiful bill. We're already seeing tax returns that are infinitely better than we've seen in years. If that happens, then Republicans have a shot to hold on to the House and win the presidency again in 2028. If it goes the other way, then say hello to President either J.D. Vance, AOC, or God forbid, of all three, quite frankly, President Kamala Harris, and Vice President, I don't know, who's you going to pick this time? Probably not Tim Walz, because they're not talking anymore. Kamala would probably go for like Sonny Hostin, like somebody like that. Like, yeah. So say hello to that administration. Anyway, let's move on to other wonderful things going on. And that obviously is what I like to play on Sunday mornings is the Bill Maher clips from Friday, because again, you may disagree with Bill Maher on many things, but the guy is consistent and he has principles. And in this case, he is one of the few Democrats, especially in media, to actually support Trump on the operation/war in Iran. And here he is going off on young Democrat voters who get their news from TikTok, which probably ain't a good idea. And again, this is a Democrat saying this. And, well, do you hear this on CNN or MS, whatever it is now? No, of course not. Only from Maher, because the guy, again, is a man of conviction, and you have to respect that. Cut number 10, go.
To me, what the Democrats are not doing with this is leading. The energy in their parties with the young people who learn everything about Israel on TikTok. They don't know and their leaders are not standing up and saying, kids, you don't know what's going on here. Every war Israel has fought is a war of defense.
Right.
Every war, they were attacked first.
Well,
And they're not doing that.
Precisely, absolutely. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just out, free Palestine. I saw a Hollywood actress last week at the Oscars talking about how there needs to be a ceasefire in Gaza. Yeah, that's been going on for like a lot of months now. They don't know. They just don't know. They just oppose for the sake of opposing. If Trump likes it, therefore, Hollywood, Democrats, the media will hate it. Every time the guy could say, hey, got a cure for shingles. Shingles. Wow. All right. Shingles. That sucks. I don't want that. Good for you, President Trump. Nope. Democrats will be like, well, what will this do to all the doctors and the pharmaceutical industry that have all this medicine for shingles? Like, they'll take the opposite side every time. Meanwhile, one more Mark clip for you before we go to break. Here is Bill talking about... You thought woke was dead? No, it's very much alive. In Southern California, at the University of Southern California, the former home of O.J. Orenthal James Simpson. Well, here's Bill talking about how the campus, that university, actually canceled a debate between gubernatorial candidates in California because they're all too darn white. No black people that, are surviving the primary race, I suppose, or even decided to run for that matter. So therefore, since every candidate is white, from Steve Hilton and Sheriff Chad Blanco on the Republican side, and Tom Steyer, the ridiculous Eric Swalwell, and Katie Porter on the Democratic side, they just canceled the debate altogether because it's just too Caucasian. And here's more on that. Cut number 11, go.
New rule, woke ain't dead. Here in California this week, they canceled the governor's debate because some people were outraged that the top 6 candidates were all white, even though this is what the people voted for, and the people are 62% minority. If their opinion was Javier Becerra is f***ing awesome, we'd know. And for the record, just because the top 6 candidates are all white, it doesn't mean there's no diversity. I mean, I see all different types of people I don't want.
Well, it's true, especially on the Democratic side. I mean, imagine your choices are Tom Steyer, who is just, to borrow a Tim Walz term, I guess, about J.D. Vance, ironically, called J.D. Vance weird. And then Kamala Harris and her team thought, wow, really cool. This is going viral on social. Walz is calling Vance weird, and the media loves it. And then Walz ends up getting picked as Kamala's number 2. Same thing goes for Steyer, though. I mean, but in this case, it's true. Tom Steyer is a weird guy. And when he was asked, hey, can you give a grade on Gavin Newsom in terms of his performance as governor, he refused to give a grade. And then said he didn't know enough about his time as governor to give a grade. Well, you're literally running for his current job right now, Tom. So that's weird. And this guy has like billions of dollars, which again, I got to know how he made his money and kept it. And then Eric Swalwell, I mean, he's a social media troll. That's all he is. Gets on CNN and MS Now a lot as a result because he says really, really snarky things about Trump, but that's not enough to even be governor of California. And then Katie Porter is a profoundly horrible person who treats people profoundly horrible. So those are the choices on the Democratic side, and I'll leave it here before we go to break. The Republicans in Blanco and Hilton are leading right now. In California, thought they'd fix their elections where only the top 2 candidates in a primary advance, regardless of party. So if Hilton and Blanco, Republicans, end up defeating, in terms of 1-2, over Swalwell, Porter, and Steyer, then California has a choice between 2 Republicans for governor. And wouldn't that be effing ironic in the most craptastic of ways? Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Back with so much more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show.
Born on on America's darkest day of 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been helping America's heroes ever since. Heroes like FDNY Lieutenant Edward J. McDonough Jr., a Marine Corps veteran and lifelong public servant. After 9/11, McDonough served at Ground Zero. He later lost his life to a related cancer, leaving behind his wife Kimberly and their 5 children. Tunnel to Towers honored his sacrifice by paying off the family's mortgage. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org today.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
And welcome, everybody. So our friend Bill O'Reilly had Dana Carvey and David Spade on his show recently. And sorry about this, Elias. We're going to go with cut 3 first here instead. A little curveball for you. As far as why Trump does the thing he does and says the things he says, the motivation behind it is half to keep everybody off guard and half to drive, let's say, the co-host of The View, including Whoopi Goldberg, especially Whoopi Goldberg, absolutely crazy. And I think this is very accurate, actually. Cut number 3, go.
Every day Donald Trump wakes up for his 2-hour sleep, okay? Yeah. And his first thought is, how can I torture my enemies? So he says stuff just to get the View ladies upset.
Right? It works.
Just to get Whoopi Goldberg agitated. Right.
Yeah.
He'll just
and they take it literally. Anything. They take everything he says literally. And then
he loves it. Look at this reaction. Look at MSNBC. They're setting themselves on fire. Yes. And now I'm going to say this. Yeah. He doesn't do any of it. So you got to understand where he's coming from. I did that when I was 7 years old, but he continues to do it.
Like the whole Canada thing he came out with. Well, I think it'd be the great.
Right.
He was just kidding. Drove people crazy.
Kidding.
That's exactly right. That's amazing. That's 2 Hollywood guys there. Spade, who I think is not a Democrat. And certainly Dana Carvey is, who knows what Dana Carvey is. That's the whole point, right? But before we go to break, actually, you know what? I'd love to tease this, actually, because it seems like we don't have enough time before we go to break. But Dana Carvey does the best Tom Brokaw you will ever hear. Brokaw, of course, NBC Nightly News, anchor for many, many years back in the 80s, 90s, I guess through the 2000s, had a very distinctive way of speaking. I'm Tom Brokaw. And it was distinctive, a little awkward to listen to at times, but he does the best imitation ever of Brokaw, and it's from Saturday Night Live. This is back in the 90s, obviously, where Brokaw wants to pre-tape all of his breaking newscasts so he could go to Barbados during like a winter break, I think, or maybe it was summer, I forget. The point is that it's one of the best things you'll ever hear, and you're going to want to stick around for this because I don't know if I've ever laughed harder during a Saturday Night Live segment than this one. So that's coming up next, including so much more, including Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, not happy with not only Chuck Schumer, but the Senate in general for sending him a bill that he says absolutely is not going to pass in the House as far as the SAFE Act is concerned. This is Joe Concha. The Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show is back in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, as promised before the break, Dana Carvey as Tom Brokaw. Again, when you talk about perfect imitations, and you can imitate somebody well, that's one thing. To have the content behind it to back it up. This was when Saturday Night Live was actually funny on a very, very consistent basis, where Carvey, as Tom Brokaw, is basically trying to work it out where if he goes to Barbados for a while on vacation, in case Gerald Ford dies, therefore they have all this stuff in the can, as we say in the business, that says that Tom doesn't have to come back from Barbados. They simply are going on what's called contingencies, right? And this is a contingency where at the time Gerald Ford was alive. Of course, he was in his 80s at the time. Maybe he'll die, maybe he won't. You just don't know. But Tom Brokaw better be there when it happens, even if he has to pre-tape it and go through every scenario of possible death for Gerald Ford, which this is where the genius comes in. This is cut number 15. Go.
Tragedy today as former President Gerald Ford was eaten by wolves.
Oh.
He was delicious.
Eaten by wolves.
Oh, wait, that's just superfluous.
Right, it's a former president, Tom. What are you saying? He's not delicious?
Fine. What's next?
All right, the double story.
All right. A fireball destroyed France today, and Gerald Ford is dead. Now, what are the odds of that? Come on.
Fine. We'll get Stone Phillips to do it, okay?
Stone Phillips.
I'm sure Stone Phillips will be just thrilled to break a story like that.
All right. Let's keep moving. Stunning news from Yorba Linda today as Richard Nixon's corpse climbed out of its grave and strangled Gerald Ford to death.
Okay, next.
Oh, my God.
Gerald Ford was mauled senselessly by a circus lion in a convenience store.
Next. Good.
Gerald Ford is dead today, and I'm gay.
Oh.
Now, wait a minute.
What? That'd be a huge story. Ford dying and you coming out?
But I'm not gay.
Yeah, today you're not gay. Then one day, you wake up, you like men, Gerald Ford dies, and we're screwed. Everybody's hearing it from Dan Rather.
All right, what's this for?
This one is for if we're invaded by Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe.
I still be the anchor of Zimbabwe invaded us.
Yeah, if you break the Gerald Ford story, you will.
Alrighty.
Oh, that's great. And then he talks in Zimbabwe speak after that. That skit goes on for 5 minutes. Excuse me, I had to cut it down for certain purposes that go along with radio, and you can only play so much from a certain entity. But, I mean, you tell me if you didn't laugh out loud at least 5 times when I played that. In fact, I'm going to play this like every month at some point. We're just going to go to the Brokaw thing with Carvey, and that'll be that on Joe Concha at night, which is obviously from 9 to 10 p.m. here on WABC and on stations across the country, and 11 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday mornings as well. I might as well work a 7th day at this point. Why not just add that? Why am I only working 6? Let's just do 7 and be done with it. Meanwhile, while we go through the whole flashback thing, Rand Paul is now floating the idea, Senator, Kentucky, votes against Trump on everything, like Thomas Massey does in the House. It's a Kentucky thing, I guess. I don't know what's in the water there, but hey. Anyway, Rand Paul's going to run for president again. Apparently, that's the reports, as he did in 2016, which probably isn't a good idea because this is what Trump did to him in 2016 at a debate that basically ended his candidacy. This is cut number 12. Go.
I think really there's a sophomore quality that is entertaining about Mr. Trump. But I am worried. I'm very concerned about having him in charge of the nuclear weapons because I think his response, his visceral response to attack people on their appearance, short, tall, fat, ugly. My goodness, that happened in junior high. Are we not way above that? Would we not all be worried to have someone like that in charge of the nuclear arsenal?
Mr. Trump. I never attacked him on his look, and believe me, there's plenty of subject matter right there.
Oh,
that I can tell you.
But Jake,
I want to give Mr. Trump.
I mean, the end. I mean, Rand Paul has this whole argument, thinks he practiced it in the mirror probably 100 times, and then Trump just responds with that because Trump can be authentic and quick on his feet. And a guy like Rand Paul, not so much, right? So run again, fine, get your interviews on CNN with Jake Tapper, on MS Now, and all these media outlets, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene's probably going to run for president, Congresswoman, former, before she decided just to quit out of nowhere in January because she really, really, really wants to be the co-host of The View. All these pretenders are going to run. Obviously not against Trump, probably. I know Trump talks about a third term, but I think he's going to finally sit down after this, maybe, I think. Can't say that 100% with Trump, no question. But whether it's against J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, and I'll share this perspective again, I think that there may be a small chance that J.D. Vance, despite being the vice president right now in the obvious order of succession, when it comes to running for president, we've seen over the years, whether it's Nixon after 8 years of Eisenhower, whether it's George H.W. Bush after 8 years of Reagan, Al Gore 8 years after Bill Clinton, Joe Biden not right after Barack Obama left, but eventually runs for president as well. Vice presidents tend to run for president. That's just the way it goes. But, you know, with Usha, his wife, now pregnant with their fourth child, and their other children very, very young, and JD only being, 41 years old, maybe he decides, you know what, I'd rather be there to help raise my kids. And as president, you could say, well, you have a lot of help. You could do, you can't get those years back. And I know I sound like slightly cliche and sentimental here as somebody who has young children. Myself, actually, they're 12 and 10 now, not as young as they used to be. But I would get it if Vance said, you know what, I'm not going to run. Let Marco have the nomination, which he would get. I don't care who runs against him. You tell me who's going to run against Marco Rubio and win, or J.D. Vance for that matter. But in the end, I think Marco Rubio is more electable than J.D. Vance. Not by much. And it's not a criticism of Vance. Just Rubio, I think, is infallible at this point. 2016, contrived, drank a lot of water, seemed nervous. Chris Christie destroyed him in one debate, and that was the end of him as far as his 2016 run. 2026 Marco is a lot different. This man is confident. I interviewed him on WABC about a year ago, and he has such a command of the facts and is doing such a phenomenal job as Secretary of State and the 18 other jobs that he has currently. And what a story, by the way, of his parents, escaping communist Cuba, coming here, and then to do the things he did. Actually played quarterback in college. I think it was D3. It's fine. Nothing wrong with D3. And then transferred to Florida. Eventually marries a Miami Dolphins cheerleader. I mean, that alone is qualifying. And I'm joking. But then the job he has done, and I think the respect that he has from both sides of the aisle. When he was confirmed, I think it was 99-1 in the Senate. I'd have to look that up, and I will during the break just to make sure I have the right information. But you try to attack Marco Rubio as a candidate for president, especially if you're Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom, AOC, Buttigieg, J.B. Pritzker. Good luck. I think he could bring in a lot of voters that otherwise maybe other candidates couldn't. So Rubio as a presidential candidate in 2028, I could see it. But if J.D. Vance runs, if the current crop is his competition, then he probably wins anyway. All right, let's move on, as Jimmy Kimmel is such a clown, just completely and totally insufferable, elitist, condescending, pious. I'm running out of words. But to go off on Mark Wayne Mullen and brings up that from years ago, he was a plumber. And boy, I don't want a plumber protecting us from terrorism. That's what Jimmy Kimmel said on his show. Well, Mark Wayne Mullen only became a plumber because his dad got very sick. He took over the family business, that was plumbing, and made it even more successful than it was before. And you're going to tell me that that is a bad thing to have on your resume? But that's what Kimmel said. And here is Senator Burchett, who is awesome on social media. He just does these videos where he's just like walking along like a hiking trail and just has a thought and says, I'm going to film myself now. This is cut number 19. Go.
Hey, everybody. Tim Burchett. I don't know if y'all saw it or not, but Jimmy Kimmel took a shot at Mark Wayne Mullen because he's a plumber. Well, the truth is he left school because his daddy got sick to run that business. And he took it upon himself to make fun of Mark Wayne for that. And to me, that shows the complete irony and the double standard of a lot of the Democrats and the leftists in this country. They claim to be the working man's friend, but yet at first opportunity they make fun of one that's achieved some incredible success in this world.
Yep.
Jimmy, you're the type of guy that's going to throw a rock over a fence and run home and hide behind your mama's skirt. And that's exactly what you're doing. You hide around, you say those things so you can run your little circle of influence, and you're a guy that got his start on a TV show that showed a bunch of young girls jumping up and down on trampolines of all things.
Very good point.
Oh, man, brother, you need to stay in your lane. Mark Wayne loves his family. He loves his country, and he loves the Lord. And those are three pretty dadgum good things in my account. So if I was you, I'd stay in my lane. Thank y'all for sending me here.
As they say in tennis, game, set, match. J.D. Vance also weighing in on the Jimmy Kimmel so-called controversy. And again, when you heard me before, you're like, wow, Joe, it sounds like you really, really like Marco Rubio over J.D. Vance. I think it's a matter of like the decision between buying a Porsche and a Ferrari or a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. I think you're getting both great candidates. I'm just playing out scenarios here. Anyway, here is cut number 2, J.D. Vance, and the guy does have a very sharp sense of humor. Go.
And now Jimmy Kimmel's making fun of plumbers. You see that?
I
Mark
did not
Wayne
see
Mullen
that.
upstairs. He said Mark Wayne Mullen's a plumber. Shame on him. He shouldn't be in charge of our security.
You'll be
That's what
shocked to
Kimmel
find out that I don't watch Jimmy Kimmel on the regular. I deal with enough annoying people as it is.
Probably true. If you have enough annoying people in your life, why add one more from ABC? It was a very distant third to Greg Gutfeld in the late night race. Meanwhile, Alyssa Slotkin was on Bill Maher's show, and you know, this person is talking about how, boy, we're ill as a country, and we really, really need to come together and get things done. Alyssa Slotkin. The punchline will be on the other side of this soundbite, but it's worth playing for the punchline alone. This is cut number 6. Go.
We are like ill as a country. We're not functioning the way we feel, most Americans feel proud of our political system. And it used to be that, you know, you would argue and of course have disagreements, but you get in a room, kick everyone out, just put your head down and get a deal. And that has become, I've been a senator now for a year and change. And that is just not the way it's functioning. And again, I'm from Michigan. We are a practical people. And 80% of the people that I talk to cannot stand the way politicians are representing themselves right now, period.
Oh, does that include you, Alyssa? Because at last check, you're the one who was starring in a video, along with Mark Kelly of Arizona, telling U.S. military members to disobey orders they deem to be illegal. You think that may be dividing the country? Yeah, you're the problem. That's the irony of her talking about bringing the country together and getting things done. She votes against everything that Trump puts forward. Now, I'm not saying she has to agree with everything, but compromise? You? Alyssa Slotkin? Mark Kelly? Don't think so. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, the aforementioned Bill O'Reilly had David Spade and Dana Carvey on his show. One of the best podcasts I have heard in some time. So, Bill, if you're listening, kudos to you. And this is outstanding when he talks about Norm Macdonald, who was fearless, right? This guy just went off on O.J. Simpson after clearly he murdered his wife, murdered her friend, in Brentwood back in 1994. And there were some executives at NBC, Don Ohlmeyer specifically, who basically ran the network, who did not like the fact that Norm on Saturday Night Live was making jokes about OJ. Wow, that's a problem, right? No, it's not. That's humor. And by the way, the guy was guilty of sin. Anyway, here's O'Reilly in terms of Norm describing how he got fired, and then Norm's advice for Bill's son, of all people. This is cut number 1. Go.
Norm Macdonald was very good, way ahead of his time.
Yes.
Still would be. There's an example of you're on a show and your boss doesn't like you, Don Ohlmeyer, and you get fired.
And it was ridiculous.
So he goes, oh, yeah, I'm firing you there from the show. And then I said, oh, that's not good.
You tell him not to do any jokes about...
How can I not do it? You'll get fired. That's where I could not do it.
And then I said, why is that now? And he goes, oh, you're not, you're not funny.
Yeah.
And then I said, holy Lord, that's even worse news,
Here's my Norm story. My 16-year-old son at the time, Norm is playing Long Island out in Huntington, and we go to see him. Norm and I had a very good relationship. So we went backstage, so he looks at my son, and he goes, Spencer, I've got one piece of advice for you. My son's 16, and he loves Norm. Oh, what's that, Mr. McDonald? Don't smoke crack.
Not a bad nugget.
Of all the advice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very Norm.
Right.
Don't smoke crack. Well, it is great advice, but imagine that you get fired by a guy like Don Ohlmeyer protecting O.J. Simpson, and then he tells you, actually, you're not funny. When you look back on Norm Macdonald's legacy, top 10 all-time comedian, certainly on Saturday Night Live, definitely as the host of the newscast that they have on there. I don't think it's even close, quite frankly, in terms of Norm Macdonald's legacy on Saturday Night Live. And if you're Don Ohlmeyer, boy, you're like almost like Jerry Krause with the Chicago Bulls when in '98 you said, I want to break up the team so I could rebuild a team to show that I'm a great general manager. The team with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and the irreverent, we'll call Dennis Rodman that. But yeah, that's basically your legacy now at this point. Anyway, let's go with cut 5. This is Anton Daniels. He is a black entrepreneur, like a YouTube influencer, but YouTube influencers like Mr. Beast, for example, you can make millions, if not $1 billion, if you have enough people watching your stuff on YouTube, just like you could as a Hollywood celebrity or as a big actor on TV. Here he is talking about, well, did Joe Biden really get 81 million votes in 2020? Because he ain't buying it. Cut number 5, go.
The first thing is I felt like the election was stolen from him in 2020. There's no way that anybody can convince me that Joe Biden is the most popular president of all time and he got over 81 million votes. I'm not going for it. The second thing is that I start to take a deeper look at my own life, right? Because especially as black people in the community, we taught to automatically vote Democrat regardless because we black, right?
Yeah.
But when I started to deep dive into the things that Democrats stood for, it wasn't the fact that Republicans or Trump or MAGA first got my attention. The first thing that got my attention is the things that I didn't align with the party that I had been voting for based off of what my family told me to do, right? I don't believe in men and women's bathrooms. I don't believe in, a lot of the stuff, my dollars going to the federal government and letting them manage my money more than I can. I believe in smaller government. I believe in spirituality. I believe in a lot of the things. And so when I started to figure out, what are we doing? Why am I voting this way? I started to explore, what about Trump didn't I like? And I realized that it was more propaganda that was fed to me and that, he was supposedly be racist and all of this stuff. And then I started to evaluate every other president that came before him. And I realized that he's just a quote unquote straight shooter.
There you go. And that is a very coherent, very professional, very, common sense way to look at things. If you're Anton Daniels, who now has been eviscerated by the left because he's betraying his race, they say, and how dare you say nice things about conservatives or about Donald Trump? Well, can't we just debate this stuff? I mean, why does this guy have to be just completely and totally vilified for just having a common opinion? And that's the thing. I mean, I guess if you're black and you're conservative, you are a pariah to the left, which tells you everything about groupthink and conforming to one set of narratives, when instead you're an individual who just has basic thoughts and has a perspective, and you're going to share it. And good for Anton Daniels. That was with Stephen A. Smith on his podcast. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. Thanks so much for tuning in on this Sunday morning. We're back next week at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on WABC and on stations around the country, and during the week at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on WABC. And yes, what's it called? Lather, rinse, repeat. Yes, and on stations across the country as well. Until then, I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.